This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Welcome to Moments of Clarity with Tiffany Werner, licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida. Moments of Clarity's mission is to educate and end the stigma on mental health through the inspirational stories of our exceptional guests. You can join in the show by calling Tiffany toll-free at 866-826-1340 or on Facebook and Twitter at MOC with Tiffany. Now, here's Tiffany Werner.
Hi, and thanks for listening. This is Moments of Clarity. My name is Tiffany Werner. I am a licensed mental health counselor, and I'm your host. And for those of you viewing us, we're doing things a little differently. We're on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Twitter, and you can still call in live to the radio station. And we're on 106.1 FM locally, 1340 AM, and other streaming podcasts. But first, so it's a little different, but I'm excited of this journey. And I want to say hi to Ed, that's running at WTAN Radio and always helpful with making things go to the next level. Hi, Ed. How are you doing?
Happy Thursday. Doing well. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Still practicing safe distancing. Mm-hmm. Still keeping the...
I think we're safe right here. There's enough distance between us right here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't... What do you mean? If I came in there?
No, I'm saying the way we're doing it right now, we got.
Oh yeah,
no problem.
Virtual.
Yeah,
you could cough all you want. However, safe distancing while trying to, as long as we can, and still do it. Why not? Mm-hmm. But it led to all this evolving into having you on visual. Before I wasn't able to even see you visually on my shows, so this is cool.
That was a good thing because I was needing a haircut. Finally got one. Now that we opened up, seeing.
Yay. Yeah, you look great.
I didn't want to go on camera with that hair, so I'm all right with it now.
And now you're on camera all the time. And then Ryan's behind the scene, Ryan Moulton, founder of Building Beyond Me. I don't know if he wants to show himself, but he shaved his head. It was great. But talking about haircuts, everyone's like, that's it. I'm just doing it.
I wasn't far behind that, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are saying. Just shave it off. I can't stand it anymore. But anyway, thanks for all you do, Ed. And this is going to be a great show. So today, my guest is a friend of mine. He's also a comedian and a TEDx speaker and an author of a book that's amazing. It's called The Magic of Life, and the traumatic journey of, I have to get this in front of me because it's kind of Magic of Life, a son's story after tragedy, grief, and a Speedo. So the comedian. And so a little bit of history with him. He was in a tragic car accident when he was only 8 weeks old. It crushed every bone in his body. And not only that, but he lost his mother at the same time as an infant. And he's done some very, very prominent things to help prevent that from happening to anyone else. And not only that, with a sense of humor, 25 years or so on stage as a comedian. So I want to welcome to Moments of Clarity, Micheal Gershe.
Hi. Thanks for having. I'm jealous of Ed's haircut. I mean, I haven't got a haircut since February, and I want to thank you because today is the second time I've used a brush in 65 days. So I showered, even put on a real shirt. So it's kind of nice to step out into my own living room and feel dressed. So
yeah,
thanks for having me today.
And especially the quarantine, you say you live alone and everything. That's got to get that gets on people a lot after days of feeling trapped. And I mean, things are opening up now, but there's a lot of people that were isolated and didn't even have pets and felt very alone. And so I hear that a lot.
Oh, sure. It's just me and the voices in my head. And now they're starting to talk back. So,
well, that's when it's a problem.
Right, yeah.
When you start having conversations. And we'll talk about that later. So tell us the story about how all of this began for you, because it's amazing.
My story.
And I also want, before you start, sorry to interrupt, I want to also tell callers, even if you're viewing this, and I know I'm not live in the studio, but we are live on radio, and you can still call in 866-826-1340. 866-826-1340, and you can join our conversation live from 12 to 1 Eastern Standard Time. But 866-826-1340, we're still live, and call in and join us. All right, Michael, please go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. You're the host. You can interrupt anytime you like.
That's the glory of hosting.
Right. So my story started when I was 8 weeks old. I was born in New York, and my father was driving us home. When I say us, it was my brother, who was 3 at the time, and my mom from visiting friends on Long Island as we were going back home. And it was around 11 o'clock at night, and we were at our red light. And as our light turned about a mile away from our house, and when our light turned green, and my father started to go through the intersection, a drunk driver plowed through the intersection and T-boned the car. And the force of the impact was so great, it woke up the neighbors from around the intersection. And when the first responders arrived, they found my father, my brother, and my mother, and they didn't find me.
Because you were just an 8-week-old infant.
Yeah. And
so it wasn't your dad that was drunk or drinking and driving.
We were hit by a drunk driver. And, it took about another 10 or 15 minutes for someone to find me. And my dad was knocked unconscious. And when he came to, his first words were, where's my baby? Where's my baby? And the 4 of us were taken to the same hospital.
Because they didn't find you. Weren't you wedged between a door and they couldn't see you? Because they didn't even know that to look for someone else because you were quiet and just so little. Yeah,
I was found between the door and the dash of the car. And we're talking about mangled metal of a mess. This is 1970 when they built cars to last. Not like today where, a shopping cart will give you $15,000 worth of damage, in Target. But they built cars back then. So it was just incredible that anyone survived. And so the 4 of us were taken to the same hospital. My brother didn't have a scratch on him. My dad had to get stitches from the windshield hitting his face, and my mom was taken into surgery. And for me, all my bones were nearly broken. My skull was fractured from one side to the other, and I was life-flighted to another hospital for my injuries.
As an 8-week-old infant. I mean, they're so fragile at that age. It's amazing you've survived that.
Yeah, and the doctors, talk about what my dad was going through, because on one hand, his infant son, the doctors say, well, he's touch and go, and his wife, my mom, was in surgery.
So she didn't die instantly?
No, she passed away the early morning of the next day. So the car crash happened on September 19th. She died the morning of September 20th due to her injuries. In terms of me, I had to be put on a special board, and my aunt lost count of how many blood transfusions I've received that night. And so they couldn't put me in a cast because I was all cartilage. And, they just didn't know. And somehow I survived, and I had to be taken to the hospital for months afterwards to make sure I didn't have any brain damage. And my friends will tell you that I'm probably messed up a little bit, but
there's the comedian.
Right. Yeah. There's always humor with something, but humor is a good coping mechanism. And I grew up to be a competitive swimmer, which is why the title of the book has a Speedo in there. Because, I swam.
A Sun Survivor story, the magic of life.
Yeah, I have it right here. Yeah. So I threw in the title with the Speedo. That's, again, humor, but I was a swimmer from age 4 to, 21. So it was a huge part of my life. So, you think about anyone who has those injuries to grow up somewhat normal, but I grew up, I healed. Even though I went to speech therapy as a kid, we didn't know it was due to the drunk driving crash or just normal childhood pains. And the drunk driver at first lied at the scene He said his friend who was sitting in the back seat was the one driving. It turned out the driver was driving on a suspended license, so he shouldn't have been driving anyway. And it wasn't until a few hours afterwards he went to the hospital, and another officer was trying to figure out the truth. And the officer smelled blood on his, smelled alcohol on him. He was combative. So it was a few hours afterwards where he actually confessed that he was the driver. And
he lied about being the driver.
He did lie.
Was there other people in the car? Or what,
he had 2 friends in the back seat with him.
And so he wanted to also not pretend he was driving and push that on his friends, but pretend he wasn't drinking as well.
Yep. So when his blood was taken 3 hours afterwards, he registered a .10, and he was sentenced. Eventually, when he confessed, his bail was set for about $3,000 to $6,000, and so he couldn't pay his bail. So he was in jail all the way up to the court hearing. So the next year was the court case, and it turned out that he was sentenced to 3 years in jail with time served. So
that's not enough.
No, and even today, you think about I'm 49 years old.
He killed your mother, and almost you, and your dad and your brother survived, though. Right.
Yeah, my brother with no injuries, and my dad. And I would say we survived, I would say physically. Mentally, as you know, the trauma and the grief, my dad passed away.
Sudden loss.
Yeah, my dad passed away in January of 2018, and I thought, man, this man carried this weight on his shoulders and soul for all those years, and he never recovered from that. And that's hard. He never really talked about it. It was still too hard for him to talk about my mom. And, you're growing up, you went, hey, I want to hear more stories about my mom. And,
who was she? What was she like?
Yeah.
My mom, was she funny too? And those are the stories you want to know about. And then if someone's still struggling with grief, it's hard for them to share funny stories or good memories.
Definitely. My mom was a school teacher, and somehow I ended up in education. My brother teaches kids how to swim. So, and doing this program, I didn't know it was a drunk driving crash till I was in high school. I knew it was a car crash, but I read the press release in my dad, one day, and that kind of led me on this path to what I'm doing now, because I thought I never wanted another family to go through what we went through. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So for the last 25 years or so,
that's so irresponsible for someone to be drunk driving, first of all, but then not take responsibility too. And people don't think about that when they're drinking and driving, of what could happen. Oh my gosh, I could run into a family and destroy the family and kill an infant and a mother. People, they don't think about that.
Right. No one does. In the last 6 or 7 years, I've been doing this program in front of first-time offenders. And it's an audience I never thought I would speak in front of, but it's been the most rewarding audience I've spoken in front of, because when you see them change in that hour and a half that you're with, and they come up to you, there's tears in their eyes, but they get the message. They take our wristbands, or they donate to the foundation, or they share, hey, I've been sober for 6 months, or, whatever it is. That's pretty powerful for myself. And I've changed as a person, because I always saw drunk drivers as the enemy. And here I am, talking in front of them. And it's been cathartic for me as well, because I can't be mad at them. They didn't do anything to me personally, but the fact that I could help change their lives and change their behavior, to never do it again, that, you can't put a price tag on that type of change. And it's been really rewarding.
And your story will help so many people think twice, I hope. But
sure.
Do you know the driver's name? And
Harvey Dennison. He's no longer alive, but in my 30s, I got the police report. So I had all this information. And
right away say it right. Of course I know the name.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Say it again. What is it?
Harvey Dennison, yeah.
How'd he die?
I don't know how he passed away, but we've done the searches.
By a drunk driver?
Who knows? But what am I going to say to him? Even if he was alive, it's those years of, being angry and hurt, and the years ago, when I was in college and I would swim angry, because I would be angry at God, my father, for never really talking about it, angry at Harvey Dennison. And, if I stay mad, though, he continues to win. And, here he took my mom, which was enough. He wasn't going to take my soul as well. So
it's so great you just said that. That's good. You got to forgive him for being.
Well, I haven't forgiven, but
one day the forgiveness is for you, not him.
Right, and maybe I'm at that point. I don't know. It's going to be hard, because
you can forgive him, not forget.
Yeah, maybe I haven't reached that point yet. In 49 years, but we were lucky, because my grandparents put an ad in the newspaper for part-time help as my dad was working overseas. And
we're getting to the next segment.
You want to get to it? You want me to wait?
Well, we need a break. We need to take a commercial break for our sponsors, but I know where you're going. And this is a nice twist to a tragedy that you wouldn't expect. So stay tuned, and we will be back with Moments of Clarity in just a moment.